Okay, so I'm going to try and make a defense for the glitch productions were never indie. Okay, so let's start. Mhm. Okay, so the video about glitch production isn't actually indie, and I think the conversation is way more nuanced than the video presents. So let's start. Okay, Exhibit A, what the original video gets right. The video main's argument is that Glitch received support from companies like Crunchyroll, Epic Games, Netflix, and Amazon. And factually, that's true. Glitch obviously received outside funding, partnerships, and distribution deals. And yes, they are no longer some tiny underground animation channel either. Shows like The Amazing Digital Circus and Murder Drones are globally successful internet shows now. The video is right about the small struggling indie creator image no longer fully fits. That's true. Now, here's the biggest problem that the definition keeps changing throughout the video. In the video, at the point where they be saying,
In 2018 or 19, you were funded by Crunchyroll, AMD, and Epic Games for the first season of MetaRunner. Epic, using their Mega Grants initiative, as Google tells me, would estimately net you guys up to $500,000.
To this day.
2 years after that, in 2020, your company got a massive $1.3 million investment by Screen Australia to fund MetaRunner and Sunset Paradise.
As I said in my previous statement, that was a one-and-done deal.
Then explain to me the licensing deal you made with Netflix to have Digital Circus on their platform, or a similar thing with Murder Drones and your future series being on Amazon Prime, which you are definitely getting a share of the revenue generated from ads and subscriptions, not including how much you would have been paid for the licensing. I'm not saying you're wrong for doing these things. I'm saying it's wrong to lie about something you're not. In this case, independent, when you're affiliated with so many partners. Otherwise, you wouldn't be as big as you are today. Come on, it's the literal inverse of indie defined.
indie means no corporate ownership, no outside funding, not mainstream or popular, and which those are completely different standards. Because if indie means you can never receive outside support, then honestly, almost no successful indie project will qualify anymore. That would include indie games with publishers, grant funded films, Kickstarter backed productions, and countless creator led projects. Okay, Exhibit A is finished. Exhibit B. Funding is not the same as ownership. This is another major distinction the video kind of blurs together. There's a massive difference between getting funded or getting funding and being owned. For example, Epic Games Mega Grants program exists specifically to financially support creators, which is not the same thing as Epic now controls your studio. And licensing a show to Netflix or Amazon also does not automatically mean those companies control the writing, characters, or creative direction. Distribution is not the same thing as ownership. That distinction matters a lot. The argument of this video also ignores creative control. One of the biggest holes in this argument is that it talks constantly about money and popularity.
The situation you described happens very rarely. The creative control allows for the shows to be the best version of themselves, fully creator-driven and indie as intended.
Just because something is independently made does not make that thing high quality off the get-go. Brain-dead people have conditioned themselves by brain-dead paid shills to think that indie can do no wrong and is better than the mainstream when they don't realize that the stuff they're calling indie is mainstream, has been is mainstream. You are mainstream.
You're just saying that because they're popular. Why are you just mindlessly hating?
Popularity is the problem. It stomps out all the other indie shows that are not as well known and need funding. All it's doing is giving more to the ones that already have the money.
But barely talks about IP ownership, creator control, or who actually makes the decisions. And by complete honesty, that's probably one of the most important things or important parts of the discussing about independence in art. Or films too, I guess. Because many people define modern indie media less by having quote unquote zero outside money and more by creator ownership, creative freedom, and independence from traditional studios or studio system. That's why many fans still consider studios like Glitch a indie or at least indie adjacent. Yeah, Adult Swim comparison. The original video also brings up the Adult Swim and Smiling Friends to the argument that creative freedom alone doesn't make something indie.
Having full creative control does not automatically make you indie. You can be on a big scale network like Adult Swim and still have a lot of freedom.
And I'm gonna be complete honest, That's actually one of the strongest points in the video. They are correct that creative freedom by itself is not enough. But the comparison also accidentally proves the opposite point. Because if even mainstream companies are now allowing highly creator-driven productions, then the line between indie and mainstream has obviously become blurry, which is why this debate exists in the first place. Well, yeah, the debate's on Twitter. I've been seeing a lot of stuff about the indie stuff. Popularity doesn't automatically erase indie status. Another issues I have with the argument is how popularity gets treated almost like proof that something stopped being indie. But popularity itself doesn't logically erase independence. A creator-owned project becoming massively successful does not automatically make it equivalent to Disney or Warner Bros. Warner Bros? Okay, I think I said that right. Otherwise, every indie creator in history would stop being indie the moment they become successful. How many do I have? Two more? Okay. This one is the hypocrisy argument.
Do you know what hypocrisy means? If I recall, you made a show with Dana Terrace about House Fame that talks down on Disney, their work culture, getting the message across that Disney is a company that no one should work with or support, given how many wrongdoings they've done. While it is very petty to make a show dunking on the company that canceled the original one you were a part of, I can get behind turning your frustration into motivation.
Your point?
What happens after Knights of Guinevere releases? Disney wants an outhouse graphic novel. A pretty
Novel idea.
And you know what transpired? You probably already know. When Owl House was cancelled, Dana made statements encouraging people to pirate the show so that Disney doesn't get a dime. But as soon as she heard a whiff that they wanted to make a comic, she had to come crawling right back to Disney.
This is about Dana Terrence? Is that her name? Dana Terrence. But yeah, it's about Dana, the creator of, I think it was Owl House. The video also accuses some creators, like I mentioned, of hypocrisy for criticizing corporations like Disney while still working with them later. But I think that argument oversimplifies things. Criticizing a company's decision does not automatically mean someone can never professionally interact with that company again. A creator can dislike executive decisions, dislike cancellations, and criticize workplace culture while still wanting official releases, wanting their projects to be continued, or wanting opportunities for their fans. That may feel emotionally contradictory to some people, but it's not automatically logical hypocrisy too. Okay, the last one is the indie is a buzzword point.
And some people still call Spindlehorse indie! You consumers are part of the problem. You just like a certain indie thing because it has the label of indie, thinking that indie means the thing you like is so special and absolves it of criticism, acting like it's different from the norm when it's just the same thing as the norm but with a new coat of paint, falling into the same pitfalls of bad writing and overused tropes!
Are you finished? Indie.
Don't say that. The word indie has lost its meaning, turned into a marketing buzzword for companies like you to profit off.
Now, with all that said, the word indie has become a marketing label online. People associate indie with authenticity, passion, artistic freedom, and creativity. And yes, some fandoms absolutely treat indie creators like they are immune to criticism, which are not, since we're still the same people. And that part of the critic is really fair.
That episode cost a lot of fucking money!
The original video raises valid concerns about commercialization, branding, and fandom culture. But the conclusion that Glitch was never indie is way too absolute. The reality is probably this. Modern indie studios exist in a gray area. They are no longer tiny hobby creators, but they also are not traditional corporate studios either. They are creator-led productions with commercial partnerships and large-scale success. And whenever you personally call that indie depends entirely how you define the word. And probably the real issue here is not whether Glitch is secretly evil or fake, but the fact that the definition of indie itself has changed over time. But yeah, these are just my thoughts of this defense. You can feel free to disagree to me, but this is just my defense side for this argument that they said that Glitch is never or was never indie. And yeah, thank you for watching.